Mutant Mayhem. I've been looking forward to this movie for a while. The director is another Gravity Falls alum, the animation style looks nice, and the voice cast was stacked. You got Nicholas Cantu, who's best known from his role on Gumball, Post Malone, John Cena, Iowa Debris, Seth Rogen, and freaking Jackie Chan? Damn, this looks really promising. That, and I was curious to see what Seth Rogen's second attempt at an animated feature would look like. Don't think I haven't forgotten about Sausage Party, Seth. So, how was it? Let's get the obvious out of the way, this movie looks gorgeous. This is another movie that took the baseline Spider-Verse set for animated films and ran with it. Every shot has this vibe and energy to it that's brought out only with the art style. Particle and impact effects are done in 2D animation, but the visual flair doesn't stop with the animation either. The direction is really tight throughout and the pacing was surprisingly fast and breezy. It follows the classic 3-act structure and I didn't really mind it, but I could have used more focus on the character moments, instead of all action. I don't know, I felt like I was missing out on more depth with Splinter and especially April. We'll get back to that in a bit. The cinematography, which is something I don't usually mention in animated movies, is really well done here too. The camera work and some of the action scenes particularly is jaw-dropping and really immerses you into the vibe the movie's trying to go for. Even with the non-action sequences, it feels like you're right there with an iPhone or a handheld camera to film the characters just vibing and bantering. And the way that it makes it that believable is through the vocal performances. Seth has talked about having the VAs in the same room together to record so they can bounce off each other in a more natural sounding and improvisational way. The way they also deliver their lines also feels very casual and loose, almost like you're watching a Justin Roiland show, but not as abrasive. But this brings into my first major flaw with this movie. The improvisational nature is nice, but could have and should have been edited down. Some talking scenes tend to just go on and on when they just keep riffing off each other. And yes, I get that it's intentionally cringy because teenagers do talk like that, but the comedic value of these conversations tend to wear out their welcome. The best way I can describe the dialogue is a watered down Big Mouth. Speaking of Big Mouth, the dialogue also relies heavily on references and memes to bolster its humor. Like one of the turtles laughs at their brother for having no riz, and there's a conversation about how sus they are, where the word sus is repeated 4 times in the span of a minute, and then they randomly pull out standees of Chris Pines and the other Chris's for a joke, and reference Avengers Endgame and Attack on Titan in another joke? Am I supposed to laugh?
That was terrible.
References sprinkled here and there are fine, but when a lot of your humor is just pointing and referencing other piece of media, what's funny about that? Plus, with early 2020s memes, you're dating the movie really hard. My friend and I were already cringing when we heard them in the movie. How do you think it's gonna fare 5 years later? I don't know, it's just a weird decision and something that could have been fixed in the editing room. But something that can't be fixed that easily is the writing. There's a lot of hints of character depth relegated to throwaway lines and jokes for seemingly no reason. For example, it's established April has an anxiety problem that's in the way of her doing what she wants to do. In the final moment, she overcomes it in 5 seconds because reasons? What's the point of that then? You could technically cut that out and it wouldn't mean anything to the overall movie. April and Leonardo also have this moment where they connect over their parental figures being overbearing and too caring, but other than a throwaway line, it's not brought up again. We never see April's parents, and it doesn't really lead to a substantial conflict with either Leo or Splinter. I ask again, what's the point? And most annoyingly of all, the villain and Splinter pulled a "we're not so different, you and I" 10 minutes apart from each other. And it's just like, why? If they had this idea from the get-go, they should have had Splinter say it in the beginning of the movie, and then the villain to parrot it in the end. That would have hit harder and hidden this stupid trope. But it feels like the writers only just thought to pull that similarity at that last second to give Splinter something to do. The fact that the script had crumbs of character depth but doesn't bother to flesh it out is the most frustrating. Either commit to the drama or let the movie just be funny turtles punching shit. Overall, I think it's a really good film with great pacing, great action, great direction, but held back by an over-reliance on pop culture references, a lack of focus with the improvisational nature, and a weak script. This was a slight disappointment for me, but I can still respect the film for what it is. The art style is beautiful, so I wish more movies got made like this, but maybe with a better script. I walked out of the theater thinking a 7, but after thinking about it, 6 out of 10. Hope the sequel fares better.
Mickey Mouse costume. It's real!
Oh yeah, check this out. I found something interesting. So this guy, randomly, he has a very familiar logo. Wait a minute, is that...